Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. I'm Kristin Sokolov, joined by my co-host, Ronnie Ward. Ron, I can imagine you are excited about today's guest.
Yeah, I'm very excited. As you know, Kristin, I played small college ball, and I'm sure our guest gets that from every guy around. But anyway, we are very excited. Argonians know this guy well, but our guest is Chris Dudley, former Portland Trailblazer, businessman, and now a candidate for governor of Oregon. Welcome, Chris.
Well, thank you. Thank you both. It's great to be here, and excited to spend some time with you, so thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're really glad to have you with us because your story really does span leadership in multiple arenas, from professional basketball to business to now stepping into one of the biggest leadership roles in the state. So this should be exciting.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start out with a question for you, Chris. We have to go here first. A lot of Oregonians first came to know you as a Portland Trailblazer, and that gives this conversation a very local connection. So when you look back on your NBA career, what did playing in Portland teach you about leadership, pressure, and representing something bigger than yourself?
Well, I think playing sports carries over to life in so many different ways. You know, from kind of, and we've talked to kids about this, right? Where the best players in the world, Michael Jordan misses half his shots, or in baseball, you're successful if you succeed 1 out of 3 times, and having that resilience, having that drive. But as far as going to politics and leadership, I think one of the biggest ways is where you, with the idea of team, where you bring together players from completely different backgrounds, from all over the country, different backgrounds, different places, and you come together towards a common goal, and you work together. And it's so important in politics to be able to do, especially in today's world, where we've gotten so divisive, it's gotten so corrosive in so many ways. We need to figure out again how to actually work together to get things done.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yeah,
This is really good timing for that.
No one can argue with that.
No.
So, Chris, I have to get something out of the way, or I think our audience might kick me off the podcast. Here we go. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
What's it like to guard Shaq? And I saw a YouTube clip. I think he pushed you down or something. Why didn't you beat the guy up?
I was going to, and that's, it's funny now that was, I don't know, 20, 25 years ago, and it's still one of the more played YouTubes, where he dunks, he pushes me, I'm upset, and I throw a ball at him and hit him, and from like half court, I hit him in the back of the head, and I'm going at him. I'm ready to fight.
You were?
I was, but that's, I kind of say that's the danger of adrenaline. You do things that you probably shouldn't do, and it was a Sunday afternoon game. And I don't really swear either, and I let one go, and it was on national TV, and lip readers, and it was like, I can't, anyway. So it's pretty funny that it comes around, and I ran into Shaq last year and kind of joked about it, but it's all good now.
Okay, I need to go watch that YouTube video.
It's a great clip.
I've never seen it.
It's a great clip.
What's always funny is I can tell when someone comes up to me, I can tell if they're a Laker fan, they go, "Oh, Shaq dunked on you." Or if they're a Knick or a Blazer fan, they'll go, "I love it when you threw the ball and hit Shaq in the head."
That's amazing. Oh, my gosh. Great
Not
question,
only
Ron.
politics pick sides, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, we'll get a little more serious here.
That's no fun.
When you were in the NBA, especially with a team like the Trailblazers, you're dealing with talent, big personalities, expectations, public pressure. What separates leaders in the locker room from guys who just happen to be good players? What's the difference?
It's a great question. I would say the drive and the discipline. You'll see a lot of, that's the difference between having a short career in the NBA and a long career. It's the guys that are dedicated, treated professionally, take care of it, know they're part of the team, know what's involved in winning and being a leader in that regard. versus guys who are just very talented, but a lot of times flame out after a couple of years because they don't know how to be part of the team process. And that's see it over the years, and it's a big deal where some guys have careers a lot longer than you would expect, and other guys flame out a lot quicker, and a lot of that's their work ethic and being able to be part of a team. And it's in the NBA team, the teams I've been involved with, you have to have your lead players, and they're not always your most talented players, but your leaders really set the tone of the team. And when the team buys in, that's when you have a successful team.
Yeah,
that's good.
That makes a lot of sense. Of course, my mind goes to the psychological aspect, and I think, why are some able to be team players and some not? Is it the upbringing? Did you see like a correlation with those that just didn't play well with others?
Well, I think sometimes, I've seen it and coached younger players, and sometimes it's harder for the players where they were so good, so young, and always kind of coddled or always kind of told they're the greatest. And sometimes I felt I was a late bloomer, and I thought that was actually a benefit for me because I had to work so hard to get there. And I think sometimes it can be a detriment when kids are recruited and coddled and spoiled at a young age, that it's hard for them. I would say, getting back to the leadership, the coaches that have to be a successful coach in the NBA, you need to have the buy-in from your top player. And the teams where, for example, when I'm playing in Portland with Clyde Drexler or New York with Patrick Ewing, Patrick's first in the locker room, last to leave. He's a hard worker, sets the tone. And how can any other player not do that if your best player's doing it? And it's kind of the same thing, and obviously it was the same with whether it was Magic Johnson with Pat Riley or Jordan with Phil Jackson. They set the tone. Duncan Robinson in San Antonio. They set the tone for the franchise.
That makes so much sense. The speed of the leader, the speed of the pack. I always said that, and couldn't be more true. Want to transition a bit and ask you, you've spent time in business, which is a very different kind of leadership from professional sports. What carried over from your Trailblazer and NBA years into the business world?
Well, I think it's the same sort of thing where it's the hard work. And I love the quote, I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who said, a leader doesn't ask anyone else to do something that they're not willing to do themselves. Yep. And I think that's part of it. You set the tone by example of working hard, having those expectations, and then caring about people. It's, I've said on the governor's race here that leadership's a combination of empathy and accountability. You have to, at the end of the day, it is relationships, it is knowing. You need to know what's going on. You need to care for people, but then you have to have that accountability too, and that cuts both ways. So I think it's a combination of having both, and you can't have all of one or all of the other. You need to have both.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and since you moved over into the arena of politics a little bit, a lot of psychologists argue that you can tell kids who played individual sports, no sports, or team sports. And obviously when you're on a team, there's so many dynamics there. You're looking out for your teammates, you're running the plays, you're trying to figure out, who's open, all of those things. Do you think that background gives you an advantage in politics where a lot of people basically talk, but they've never really seen action? Is that an advantage for you?
Oh, absolutely. It really is an advantage with the team. And there's nothing better, the saying where the sum is greater than the parts, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, where everything clicks and you come together as a team, and you're playing at a level that's actually higher than maybe what might be expected just by your roster. And that's where it just meshes, comes together. And that's really where people accept their roles, which is part of leadership. And for example, and this is probably true of just about every player, you're usually one of the, if not the leading, but one of the leading scorers on your college team when you come to the pros. But sometimes then when you come to the pro, it's like, well, no, I'm not getting the ball. Clyde Drexler's getting the ball. Terry Porter's getting that, or whoever. Yeah. I'm not getting. I have to accept my role, and I think that's part of it as well. And then it really is just really blending in and knowing what your strengths are and playing off others, and and working together, and the whole idea of team, that you have to put your ego to the side. I mean, you're still confident, you still believe in yourself, and you're still driven, but being able to say this is about the team, and winning, at the end of the day, winning is what matters.
Yeah. That's great. I know, Ron, you probably were thinking about this too. Aces in their places, and as you like to say, put your jacks in the cracks. It's so true. All right. So a leadership question that our audience always connects with is, how do you deal with underperformance when people are counting on results? So even like tying it into the governor race, right? Because you're going to come in and there's going to be underperformers. So whether it's sports, business, government, tolerating weak performance usually hurts everybody else. So how do you handle that underperformance?
Well, that's going to be a key role, and I've talked about in many areas that in Oregon and in society, but particularly in Oregon, I think we've gotten to a place, I call it the cruelty of low expectations, where we've kept lowering the bar, and it's seen as empathetic sometimes to reduce those requirements, but in reality, it's the opposite, because then that person's not prepared for success. We're seeing that here in Oregon, where we've so lessened the requirements to graduate from school, from high school, that 40% of Oregon high school graduates need remedial classes when they get to college now. So we're not doing it, but yet our graduation rate just ticked a little higher. Well, that's not doing any good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's the exact opposite of what you do. And I have found, from playing sports and coaching, people want accountability. They want to be pushed. They want somebody. The best coaches are, a player buys into the coach when they believe that coach is trying to put them in a position to succeed and help get the most out of them. They appreciate those coaches, and that's something that we need. And right now, it's going to be, here's the expectations, and here's what we need to do. And either you're doing it. If you're not, then it's, why aren't you doing them? You figure that out. And if you can't, then we have to move on. But you have to have accountability. Yeah. And that's something that's really been missing across the board in so many different areas, that it needs to change. And I believe that tone is set at the top. Yeah. I believe as governor, I will set that tone. And I think you have to set that tone. I think we got away from so many different things. And, working from home is okay to an extent.
Right.
But there's certain things, you still have to perform, and if you're not performing, we can't do it. And I think there's a lot of different areas where we really are gonna have to focus on that accountability, especially in government, where you're working for the people, you're working for taxpayers' dollars. There's an expectation that you're getting things done.
Amen.
That's good. I think you answered my next question, so I'm going to change it up just a little bit. This is a difficult time for politics. I'm sure the things you just mentioned prompted your decision to actually run. What would you say is 3 of the most important things you want to get done for Oregonians?
Well, I'm focused on education, economy, livability, which includes affordability and safety. So when our schools are ranked 50th in 4th grade testing, dead last, that's unacceptable to me. And I've said on day one, we're going to have a state of emergency on education. We have to change that. And I talked about that accountability. We're going to have to focus on the science of reading, different ways of changing what we're doing, get back to fundamentals, doing different things. So education, getting education going on the right track is hugely important to me. I come from a family of educators. When I ran previously, I talked about the education of today is your economy of tomorrow. I believe that. So that's one. Reopen Oregon for business. That's something that's crucial right now. We are at a tipping point where we're seeing an economic doom loop start, especially in the Portland area, where businesses are either leaving or they don't want to invest here. We have to change that culture, and we have to have a place where business can thrive, because we need those jobs for the services we want. We need to have a place where people can afford to live here. Safety is something that is very important to me. We rank 48th as a state in officers per capita. We have to change that. With our homeless situation, I think has been a disaster. We have a crisis of addiction. We have to address that. I've said as governor, I want to get off off the streets the things that are literally killing our citizens. Things I call it poison, the fentanyl, the tranq, the different drugs that you do once, twice, 3 times, and they literally either kill you or they do such damage it takes years to recover. We have to get that off our streets. So those are some of the core areas that we have to focus on immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Chris, I explained it. I'm down in Charleston, but it's hard for me to understand how Oregonians are tolerating. It's hard for me to understand California. What do you think is the biggest barrier for a candidate such as yourself in a general race? What's the biggest hurdle or barrier that you have to cross to get these independent voters?
I think it's really showing that you care about them and you care about their issues. And when I ran in 2010, it was the closest election in Oregon's governor's race in the past 70 years, the highest the Republicans done since '82. And it's important that when you run, that you run on messages that connect across party lines. And I'm doing that, and I'm seeing it. And it doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Independent, Republican. You want good schools. You want jobs available. You want your kids to be able to afford to live where they grew up. You want safe streets. And so I think focusing on those core issues and saying, that's what I care about. That's what I want. And as I said, that empathy and accountability is important to show that you have both components. Too often it's one or the other. And when it's one or the other, you really have neither. I will argue that it's not what we're doing today is not empathetic. Right. Just throwing money at things without accountability is not empathetic. It's not empathetic when your schools are ranked 50th, or people are literally dying on the streets, or drug addiction is to such a level. That is not empathy. And I think it's showing that by adding accountability, you're actually doing both. I'm not running because... and I think it's a great time for an outsider, frankly. I think somebody coming in from the outside and saying, hey, we got to work together. I'm tired of, both sides are tired of the partisan politics, the bickering, the name calling, all the stuff you see, and is so disappointing when you get into it and you see it and you go, oh, this is why we're having problems.
Yeah, it's gross.
To say we can do better, and someone from the outside come in, and we need somebody with a business background to come in and say, hey, we've got serious solutions to serious problems. We got to get our house in order. We don't have time to spend time just bickering when we're 50th, 47th, 40, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
When we're last in so many areas. Let's focus on these core issues that we need to address. And I'm running. My kids, thanks to my wife, are 6th generation Oregonians.
Very
Eventually
cool.
want to have 7th generation Oregonians. It's like, what are we doing here? Let's have a place that we're proud of. What's our legacy? What are we leaving to the next generation? And those are the things that frankly, that drive me.
Oh, that's so great. And I just want to say you're talking about accountability, and I couldn't agree more. I have a sister, my only sibling, who was a drug addict for 10 years. And the only reason she's been clean and sober for 9 years, she's thriving. She got married, she had a baby, like living a normal life, just delayed, right? Is because the judge finally threw the book at her after seeing her in the system numerous times. She got 3 years in prison, and she did a program in prison here in Oregon. And she's so thankful for that. And so I have to say, like, she goes out and does speaking events for the recovery community. But she's like, the only reason I'm alive today is because of accountability. Yeah. So we need to see more and more of that.
No, absolutely. We have a very good friend who started an addiction high school in West Lynn, and we talk about that. And first of all, start with the idea that, with addiction, I say, there by the grace of God go I, or somebody in my family. We need to understand that and help that. People don't start out life saying, I want to be a drug addict.
Right.
There's problems. But with that, you have to hit rock bottom to start that recovery. Rock bottom might be going to prison, it might be losing your job, whatever it is to help that process. And then we have to help have a program in place that they can help on that recovery I have family members as well who've battled with addiction. And so it's something it's serious. It's whether it's a disease or what causes someone to become an addict versus somebody else. I don't, others can determine that, but we do know that there are paths to recovery, and we have to focus on that and not just enable. And it saddens me when I'm walking around the streets of whether it's Portland and Old Town or Wallace Park in Salem or different areas, and talking to people. It's like, well, how long you been here? And it's, well, 15 years, 10 years. When's the last time you talked to a social worker? Well, maybe last year. They gave me a phone number. It's like, well, that's enabling. That's enabling. That's not helping. And we have to get to a place where we're actually helping address the issue. And we have to do so much better. And we're throwing dollars at it, but we don't have the success we should have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I just have to give a shout out, Coffee Creek Correctional Facility for Women. They have a great program in there, and that's why she is clean and sober today. As long as, as well as she's doing the work. She goes to the meetings twice a week, etc. But
that's
great
awesome
facility.
Yeah.
Chris, you have some great insight there. I spent my career in probation. I was the head of training for federal probation officers in the country when I retired. And we always had programs, we're throwing money, we're putting people, and we thought if we could get them employed and get them into substance abuse counseling, the world would change. And then we slowly began to see that it just wasn't working. And then we did studies. We found out their criminogenic needs are the way they think, criminal thinking, and their associates. So no matter how hard you try, if they go back to the people who are supplying drugs, the mindset, all of that, they go right back. So I love to hear you say that. It's a different perspective, and it certainly needs to be visited from a fresh, we always think throwing money at something's going to be the cure, and then we don't look at outcomes. But the outcomes show that doesn't work. So I really like what you're saying.
I get very frustrated that we are such an input-focused rather than output-focused.
Exactly.
Yes.
We're throwing money at the input. How many are here? Let's just throw money at that. You need to focus on what the output is, what the return is. And I think that's something where having a business background or experience in the real world in that regard matters, where what is the result of those dollars in those programs? And let's reward the ones that are working, but maybe we don't put money where it's not working. And we really that accountability is something that we're so lacking right now in the state of Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
All right, Ron, you've got a good one lined up.
Yeah, I do. I think so. So, Chris, we know that, politicians are, from the public standpoint, they're at an all-time low. So you've dealt with pressures, big crowds, big games. You've been involved in media scrutiny, high expectations on you. How, and a lot of leaders, maybe not to the level of you, but they deal with this. How have you prepared for that criticism? How have you prepared your family, and how have you gotten ready for this big moment?
Well, it's a great question, and the family, we went through it in 2010, so knew what was involved. And after running it was kind of the sports equivalent of we lost in double overtime, where we had the game won on Tuesday, we lost it lost the election on Thursday. My wife and I decided at that time that I would not run again until the kids were out of high school, and just really focused on our family. And going into this, I could not have done it without. You can't do it without the support of your family, and that was a lot of talk. A lot of heartfelt talks, a lot of deep conversations about it, and just got to the place of our state deserves better. We have to go at this, and it was the idea. My wife hit me with the which would you feel worse about, sitting at not doing it and knowing the path that we're on and just watching it happen, further deteriorate, further go down the same path, or getting involved, giving everything you can to it, and hopefully works out with the expectations it's going to work out. But either way, you gave everything you could. And that's where we got to. And we knew that going in, and we just know the politics. It's disappointing to me that it's like where you say politics, it's like the norms of society don't exist. Where all of a sudden, oh, it's okay to lie, it's okay to do this, and it's like, if you said that to somebody in the real world, you probably get hit. It's kind of, it's just a different world, and I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful that society is, and here in Oregon, that people are getting tired of being driven by the emotions of fear and anger that so much of society is playing on us each right now. And, I think I have the fortune, and I do say good fortune, of having a family that's politically divided. I have, out here, and some ideas are a lot crazier than others, and, but they're all good people, and I get along with all of them and can have conversations. And I realize they all have good intentions. Like I said, some crazy ideas, but good intentions, and I think that's important. And as far as preparing for it, I just literally I pray to God every night or every morning and just say, let me represent you well. And at the end of the day, if you do that, I think you're going to be fine. Whatever happens will happen, but you can hold your head up high that you did everything the right way. And I think and not get caught in, and you have to have that reminder. Yeah. You have to have that reminder every day of, why am I doing this? Why don't get sucked into the swamp, if you will, but get sucked into the whatever, the bad, what's happening in today's society, and just run. I'm doing this for the right reasons, and just remember that every day.
Right. Oh, that'll give you a mental peace for sure.
Yes, it does. It does.
Yeah, I think that's
Remember
great.
your why. Remember your why.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And, this is a great segue. What keeps you grounded now? Because people see the athlete, the businessman, the candidate. What keeps Chris Dudley steady behind the scenes?
Oh, well, I've always, it's always the mantra, humble and hungry. You'll hear that in sports. And
I am picking up humility from you. That's really good.
Well, no, I think every athlete, everybody realizes at the end of the day, you were always one knee injury away. You're always one, you have to be confident. You have to have a certain confidence in yourself. So don't, it's like, that doesn't mean weakness. It just means always driven. There's a reason the great players are always driven. You talk about back in the day with Michael or Kobe getting up at 5 a.m. and working, these guys were driven, and you have to maintain that. But it's just having that humility that we're blessed. I've always felt fortunate. I was raised that no one person's greater than another person. You treat everybody equally, and it's a great way to go through life. And as you go through life and you get older, you realize the importance of that. That we're all here. We're all God's children. We're all here. You treat people with respect, and if you do that, things work out well.
Amen.
Beautiful. I know. Isn't that great? We're both Christians too, so we love that. Yeah. And, it just reminds me, I tell kids, like, because I homeschool, so we see, we're always together driving around, and I'll see homeless people on the side of 82nd Avenue, right here by Happy Valley. And I'll tell the kids, I am no better. I want to remind you guys, I am no better than them. We just made different decisions, and we come from different backgrounds, right? Like, that message is so important, and I think it was really cool to hear you say that.
Yeah. No, my mom at a young age taught me something that always stuck with me, was never judge another person till you've walked a mile in their shoes. And I think, and that's something that playing in the NBA was really impactful as well. You get to know your teammates and you're hanging out, and I'm talking with a guy, become friends with them. Great guy, and find out his mom was on crack and his dad was incarcerated when he was growing up, and you're like, wow, how did you get through that? How did you? And it's just, people come from different. There's usually a story behind where people got, and that's where I talk about the empathy and accountability. You have to have that empathy. You have to understand where someone's coming from. But you still have to have accountability. That doesn't mean you don't have accountability. You still have to have accountability. And that's where you got to have both.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that theme throughout the conversation.
Yeah, that's so good. Chris, I do executive coaching. I always say you don't understand someone until you understand their journey. And it tells you so much about someone, how they grew up, their environmental influences. All of that comes into place. I love your attitude on that. I can't imagine Oregonians going a different direction here, Chris. Heck, I might, drive out and register. I'm kidding. All right.
We'll figure it out.
It's all mail-in, Ron, so hey.
Good point.
We'll get you registered.
So Chris, what do you want to be known for when this is all over? What's your legacy? And let's start it this way. What do you think Oregonians get wrong about you? And then what do you want your legacy to be?
Wrong. The wrong. I don't know if it's wrong, but I think there is a stereotype when you've been successful in business or successful in sports that certain things that you don't. I understand what it's like to be in a situation which half of Oregonians are now right now living month to month. I remember that as a kid. I remember at a young age slipping cardboard into my shoes because I had holes in my shoes. I understand those issues. So having the empathy and understanding, I think, is something that I want people to know I do have. But with like I said, with that accountability is important. And I think if I wanted Oregonians to know something, it would probably be that I'm running for the right reasons. And it's not about ego. It's not about, I'm running to do something, not to be someone in the regards that I've been successful. I truly believe our state can be so much better. And I'm saddened by where we've gotten. And I think Oregon used to be known as a state that was a leader in so many ways, and going way back, but to beach bill, bottle bill, land use planning, just kind of a visionary on different things. And we've gotten to where we're just going from crisis to crisis, and in my opinion, complete lack of leadership. We've completely lost our way, and it's such a great state. And literally, we've driven, I think, over 7,000 miles in the last 8 weeks, traveling the state, getting everywhere, going to all 36 counties, across the board, and you just realize how many great people are out there, how many people, and I just want to give them a voice and be able to say, let's take back our state, let's make our state great. And it's such an incredible state. We have so much going for us. In my opinion, the most beautiful state in the country when you go from the beaches to the mountains.
It is.
We're on the West Coast. We have deep water ports. We have so much great people here. We have so much that we can do. And I think we've had so many self-inflicted errors that we can correct. And I do believe there's a path here. And it's really just the idea of wanting to bring us together to be able to say, hey, let's get serious here. Let's focus on these issues and get back to where we can be and have great pride in our state.
Couldn't have said it better.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you joining us, Chris. And, I really think what makes this conversation interesting is that your leadership story didn't start in politics. It's actually quite refreshing. It started long before that, as a Portland trailblazer, and now as a businessman. And, so many Oregonians remember that, and I think they'll really enjoy this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. It was great spending time with both of you, and I appreciate the conversation, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you so much. And before we let you go, where can people follow you, learn more about your campaign, and stay connected?
Dudley for Oregon. It's the number 4. Dudley4Oregon.com, and all the social media and everything else. And we're posting every day and sending stories from as we're traveling the state. And so, yes, please. And I'm just telling, getting the message out there that your vote matters. And Ron will get you out here, but your vote matters. Every vote matters, and that we can change our state. And it's important to get involved. And I tell the story that we have a family motto that you have no right to complain unless you step up and do something about it.
Beautiful.
And so that's kind of what we're calling on everybody to do, is to get active and say, hey, we've all done enough complaining. We know what's wrong. Let's step up and make a difference. And so I like that we're creating a movement in that regard where
Yes.
people are taking ownership and saying, hey, we got it. We have to do better here, and we can. So
Yes. I will let
stuff.
you use my slogan, turn anger into action.
I like that. I like that.
go.
That's
a
been
good
my
one.
motto
Yes.
since 2020.
I like that.
Yeah,
All right.
so it's like get up off the couch, stop
Yeah.
complaining. But
Yes,
thank you so
exactly.
much. This has
That's
been
it.
awesome. I know you have a call in 4 minutes, so we need
Oh,
to
yes.
let
There you
you
go.
jump off. You're going to get in trouble.
I
Thank you
will.
so
I will.
much, Chris. This has been a great conversation.
Well,
Take care,
appreciate it, Kristin. Appreciate it, Ron.
I'm rooting for you.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, folks, stay with us. Kristin and I are going to do some little editor notes here. Kristin, what was your thoughts about Chris and the interview?
Yeah, well, I would say I even shared with him. I did pick up humility from him in the conversation. And being an Oregonian and seeing the commercials and all of the social media, you don't get this kind of time like where you get to actually get behind the scenes with them. And I saw a very humble, down-to-earth man who is a strong leader. Accountability. I loved that accountability theme throughout the conversation. You and I love accountability. We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
I was very impressed, and I was going in completely impartial.
Yeah, Kristin, I'm going to share something I've never heard a podcaster share ever, and I'm an avid listener.
Yeah.
I learn a lot about people because you always have a conversation before the show. Sometimes we will speak to someone a week before. Sometimes it's right before you start to record. And the minute that, I joked with him about Shaq before we ever started recording. And I got a good sense of this guy in those few minutes that we chatted, that he is humble and that he really does want to make a difference. You could tell this isn't about him. And I think there's too many people run for office and it's just about them and their legacy and I'm going to be on the billboards and all that stuff. Yeah. I did not detect any of that. And I think I've got a pretty good BS detector. So
yeah, same. I think
that would be
you're spot
exciting.
on.
That would be exciting. For
be.
Oregonians especially to see the difference. Again, I think it's interesting because Chris and I live so far away that, South Carolina has an Oregon perspective. And, of course, you see news clips and, it seems like it's The Walking Dead out there. There's just zombies, when you're just watching news clips.
Yeah.
But it does sound like there's a lot of cleanup and things that need to happen. I mean, I know it's not that extreme, but it seems pretty bad out there in some of the like a lot of other inner cities.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's what he was picking up on. And I love that he went and visited every county. I think that's incredibly important because, like, to your point, like when people think of Oregon, they think of Portland, right, where I'm outside of, right? Even like where I'm at, I'm 10 minutes outside of Portland, and where I live is pristine, right?
Yeah.
So it really is. And then you go into Portland and it's very different. And so what he's doing by visiting every county is he's able to get out there and not only interact with the people that live there, but to be able to see for himself what they're struggling with, right? Like he said, what half of Oregonians are living paycheck to paycheck. And he's able to see that firsthand. And I think that that's really important and says a lot. Oregon's a big state. It's not.
It is.
That's not a small task to drive the entire. There's parts of Oregon. I've lived here my whole life, and parts I've never even been to. Right.
Yeah. Of course.
And so.
This was really good. Thanks for your connections organizing this. If you're an opponent and you think you got what it takes to come on the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great conversation.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.